Going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam back at it again for the hashtag homeless on day 65, and it's a pretty chill, relaxed morning here in Jamestown, New York. About as quiet as it can be, but I still hear, there's still a lot of background noise. You might not hear it, but it's there. Here I go with the and the and the and the Oh, let's see here. So much to talk about, so much going on. I get more content to share with you guys yesterday and each previous day than I have time to share it with you the next day. And that's the trend that's been carrying on throughout the entire week. So I'm just going to get into it and we'll go from there. In the news, we'll talk about the news for a minute. There really isn't much, before we get into the news, there really isn't much going on with the homeless situation between yesterday and today. There are a few updates. I will get into those as the video progresses. But we're just going to start out with the news. It seems that law enforcement has arrested a male suspect in Florida after he threatened to kill President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. So, once again, the pendulum, my liberal friends, the pendulum has started to swing in the opposite direction, and you're not going to get away with your shenanigans anymore. It's happening. This guy, his name's Michael Wiseman. Not very wise, Michael, but he was arrested on charges of written threats to kill today. The letter allegedly said he would kill Trump as well as his new running mate, J.D. Vance. The motive and the credibility of the threats remains unclear, according to CNN. Of course, CNN's gonna give him a pretty light treatment. We'll see how the Google search on this guy's name does not come anywhere close to the Google search on my name the week of my arrest. So we're going to leave it there, but the liberals, you're going to get in trouble now. If you start mouthing off on social media, I'm telling you, I'm a warning to you all. This is what'll happen to you. You'll go to federal prison for 2 years. You maybe more. I didn't threaten any specific people. And the posts that I created barely passed as being considered threats in the first place. Only one of the 7 posts that the government charged me for even came close to being considered a true threat. And that's the standard by which the jury has to make the decision. It's not the words that you say, but whether it's an actual true threat that you intended to carry out. That's a big part of it. And the prosecutor was willing to drop the charges related to 6 of the 7 posts. But the sentencing guidelines and the way it all works, the system is so corrupt that it was actually in a better situation for me to plead guilty to the whole thing so that I could fight off these extra add-ons and enhancements that they were trying to give me, which were going to result in a lot more prison time. So the criminal justice system is completely corrupt, and I'm just going to leave it there because, like I said, the pendulum is swinging in the opposite direction, and I think this is the first time I've heard of someone taking shit talking to the point of threatening Trump getting arrested. So it says Michael Wiseman was arrested for threatening to kill Donald Trump and J.D. Vance on social media. Jupiter, Florida police confirmed his detention and lodging in the Palm Beach County Jail. I like how they call it lodging, like he's staying in an Airbnb. Wiseman made multiple threats, including bodily harm against Trump and Vance's families. They call it lodging. Maybe because he's a Democrat that threatened the Republicans, maybe he is getting 5-star accommodations. Maybe they are putting him in a place where you could call it lodging instead of jail. I don't know. It is West Palm Beach. Maybe they've got some luxury jails for the rich people down there. I don't know. A detective with the Jupiter, Florida Police Department said that Wiseman made multiple threats against Trump and Vance on Facebook. He threatened bodily harm against Trump and Vance's families, the detective said. So, there you go. That's the news. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know if you're going to be seeing ads before you watch this video. And if that bothers you, well, I just want to let you know it's all your fault. It's all your fault. Because all of you watching these videos, you made me reach the YouTube holy grail of 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers. I just want to thank all of you viewers out there who are helping this channel blow up so fast. YouTube says that it takes an average of 15 and a half months to reach your first 1,000 subscribers. And thanks to you guys, this channel has hit the 1,000 subscriber mark in 64 days. 66. Today is video 65, which means I've been homeless. So 64 days. 64 days because I didn't do a video on the first day of being homeless. So I don't know how big it's going to get from here, but who knows? There really aren't any more YouTube milestones to reach as far as I'm aware, other than just continue to grow and do your thing. I think the next milestone is getting demonetized, and the next milestone after that is getting canceled. So those are the next goals, I guess, because everybody who gets big on YouTube saying the wrong stuff, that's what happens. And you don't even have to say the wrong stuff. I see people getting demonetized and canceled who don't say anything about politics or the medical community or global warming or anything that you're not supposed to talk about. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I did get one video demonetized already. I think you know, if you've been a regular watcher of this channel, you know exactly which video that was. But out of the 64 videos, only one of them got demonetized so far. Not suitable for advertisers. So, I think any of you who've seen all the videos know exactly what we're talking about here. Like I said, I don't know how big it's going to get from here, but who knows? Thanks to you and all the new viewers to come, this channel, things might get so big that Taylor Swift has to write another breakup song about me after she's done with that football player. I don't know. It's going to be up to you guys and how much you support this channel and what I'm doing, but you never know what's going to happen in this life. Like I said, it took 64 videos, 65 days, just a hair over 2 months to do what YouTube says should take 15 and a half months to pull off. This guy, Friar Tuck, another homeless channel, he was saying in a video the other day specifically that it took him 11 and a half months to get his first 1,000 subscribers. And he's well over 3,000 subscribers now. So once again, thank you to everyone for the support, the kind words, and also those of you who have purchased my photography and your kind-hearted donations. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate all of that support. It is mind-blowing, mind-blowing. I never thought in a million years when I started doing these YouTube videos that it would have any kind of traction at all. I thought 20, 25 people would watch them, and maybe I'd have some good conversations with a few people, but it just blew up. Which brings me to, since I mentioned the donations, the donate page is live once again. My digital chicken bucket, that's what it's called when you go there. The digital chicken bucket is open for donations. Once again, I had a little bit of time yesterday to finish what I was doing there. I've been getting asked about it in private messages for the last week since I shut down the PayPal page and in the comments to get the digital chicken bucket functional once again. And so I'm just here to tell you that it now works, and it was tested yesterday. The address is in the description below. It's donate.litgood.com. So thank you so much. You don't even know. there was a pretty decent donation that came through just yesterday, right after I opened the floodgates back up. And I can't even begin to tell you how helpful this is. I have an Adobe software subscription payment due in a day or two. It could be today. I can't remember. And so your donation gives me more than another month of Photoshop. And honestly, this is the only monthly software or service fee of any kind right now that I'm paying for, because I depend on Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Premiere and the whole suite of software that they provide. I depend on it for everything from this YouTube channel to everything, to the logo and graphic design work that I'm doing, along with all the photography work that I'm doing. I would say more than half of my day is spent using that software, so I pay the $60 a month that it costs to have that. Because without it, excuse me, without that software, I'd be in a jam. And yeah, there are ways to pirate Adobe software and get it for free, but it's a hassle and it's not worth it. And to always have the newest updates and to always have, there's a whole ecosystem around it, and I don't mind paying for it at all, because I'm old enough that I remember back in the day that to get a copy of the Adobe Suite, it was an upfront payment of about $6,000, and nobody could afford that unless you owned a business. And so, everybody, and I mean everybody who is a Photoshop user at my level at the time, especially at the starving artist level, they were using pirated copies of it. And I used to do work for Adobe. I used to work for a training company that trained people how to use Adobe software, and we had access to people from Adobe. And at the time, Adobe didn't care. Adobe did minimal effort to try and stop piracy of their software, and it was a smart move. It was a strategic move on their part, because by turning a blind eye, they set up a situation where Photoshop and all of their products became the standard by which everybody all professional designers and graphics people use their software. And it was mostly because they turned a blind eye to all the piracy. And the reason why is, if all these people are masters in this software and use it almost exclusively, when they go and get jobs, they're going to make the companies that they work for buy the software so that they can do their jobs. And people aren't going to ask for competitor software. And then Adobe went and bought all the competitors. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with Adobe right now, and their AI and their user agreements and all that kind of stuff. I'm old. I've been using this stuff for like 30 years. You can't just, that's like telling an auto mechanic that he can't use an air ratchet anymore to do his job. I mean, it's a tool in my toolbox, and I use it. So, but thank you for the donations. I'm going to go back on track here. The donations are helping to pay for that. I've got to go to Tim Hortons today to sit and use the Wi-Fi. You're buying me some coffee, helping out so many ways. It's awesome, and I'm grateful for that support beyond words. But that, once again, that's donate.litgood.com. And the photography store, I personally prefer if you go and buy something from me from the shop.litgood.com. Because I want to get my photography in people's hands. And, if you're gonna send me a donation, or you want to help out with what I'm doing, then help yourself. Get yourself a nice piece of art to hang on your wall. You will only be helping me grow that business and that side income, because as the more sales that I make and the more reviews that I get on Etsy, specifically, the more Etsy will promote my stuff, and the more my stuff will show up in the rankings. And it's just like YouTube. The more people engage with it, the more the algorithm will show me love. So, once again, that's shop.litgood.com. But if you just want to throw a couple bones in the chicken bucket, that is donate.litgood.com. And so, like I said, PayPal is gone. The new donate page is using Square right now, and so far so good. Everything's working smoothly. I do plan on setting up multiple options, and the donate link will take you to a page where you can choose the option that you want to use. Because as preppers like to say, 1 is none and 2 is 1. That's a popular saying. So if I'm only relying on one system to get things done, then I could be hurting myself in the long run, because if that system goes down, I don't have an alternate set up. So I'm going to, within the next couple of weeks, try to have some sort of alternate system in place. I need to set up 1 or 2 of those just for my stock photography payments, because I shut down PayPal because of their horrible treatment. There are 2 other options that I can use to get paid from the stock photography that I sell. And it's going to be a while. It's probably going to be a long time before I have to worry about a payment hitting on the stock photography sites. But if I start putting more time into the stock photography sales, then the number of payments, the potential for a payment could materialize quicker. So I just need to get these things in place before that happens. So PayPal, we're talking about modern garbage software. And, maybe YouTube was affected by the IT blackout a little bit that we had yesterday, because certain aspects of YouTube were a complete mess yesterday. And I lost a good part of my day over it. I was able to find some workarounds, but I kind of get sick and tired of this kind of stuff taking up so much of my time. But on the flip side, this is the world where we live. And everything is reliant on trash software that's rushed out the door before it's ready. I mean, this stuff is cobbled together to the point where it barely works, and then it's put in your hands. That's why I'm living my entire life right now like the software companies do. The only place in my life where I care about quality anymore are my photography, my photos, because it's the only place that I can take the time to care about it. Nothing else works anymore. The experience yesterday, it taught me a few things. I learned how to quickly find certain video settings and manipulate certain export settings in Premiere. A little bit different than they used to be when I used to use Premiere a lot heavier back in the day than I do now. And so things have changed, and things were shuffled around and moved a little bit. And so I had to do a little bit of homework to figure out where some things had been moved to. And I also found a number of glaring bugs in Premiere, because even Adobe, they used to be one of the best software companies out there, and they've turned into a shit show of broken garbage software themselves. I have to keep 3 versions of Photoshop installed simultaneously, because all of them are so broken that sometimes I need to go into an older version to do something because they broke it in the new version. And then sometimes I have to go back 2 versions in order to find a version where the thing that I need isn't broken. So I usually have to keep the current version of Photoshop along with the previous 2 versions all simultaneously installed on my machine. But that's the reality now. I don't know how you would even begin enforcing standards on software companies. Auto manufacturers can't get away with producing products the way software companies do, yet software is becoming an increasingly more important part of the automobile. And if software continues to be made the way it is, you're not going to be able to trust your automobile anymore. Your car is going to crash you into a wall or drive you off a cliff if you're not careful. And that's why I will never buy one of these self-driving cars. I'm driving a stick shift with manual locks on the windows and hand crank windows. That was what I had in my Jeep Wrangler that I lost when I was arrested. It was the bare bones base model Wrangler that I upgraded a little bit over time, but it had the hand crank windows, it had the manual door locks, it had a stick shift. There was nothing in this vehicle that Elon Musk's software could mess up. I drive my vehicle, you don't, Elon. So, but software has gotten so complicated, I don't even know how you could regulate it. back in the day, computers couldn't handle a lot of stuff being thrown at them at once. So programmers had to write clean and optimized code and check it. And there was a lot of attention to quality and attention to detail. Nowadays, computers have gotten so fast and capable, programmers just throw bloated, crappy code at them, knowing that it doesn't matter if the code is clean and optimized anymore. So, one thing that I try to do whenever I encounter some sort of software bug, even if it's a temporary bug like YouTube was giving me yesterday, is I try to make improvements to my workflow and the processes I use, especially for repetitive tasks that I have to do over and over. And I try to learn something new. Sometimes I can discover a quicker and better way of doing things as a result of encountering a bug and having to find a workaround for the bug. So yesterday I figured out an efficient way to deal with this YouTube issue if it ever happens again. And this particular issue has happened about 3 times in the last month. So the next time it happens, it's going to cost me maybe an hour of my time overall. But that hour will also be spent doing some housekeeping tasks that would need to be done anyway. And so I have a plan of how to handle this bug when it shows up again. And I'm really not going to lose that much time. And the time that I spend dealing with the bug will help me accomplish things that I would have to cross off my list anyway. So there's the talk about garbage software. And now I'm moving on to, I had to go to social services yesterday. Got there, once again, I tell you, get there early, or you're going to be sorry, especially with a government office. I got there 15 minutes early yesterday, and I was the fourth person in line. I was the 4th person in line. And since I'm from Generation X, where we threw down in mosh pits and crowd surfed and got ourselves on stage with the band at every concert, even though we only came with a $20 long ticket, there's no way any of these people who tried pushing and shoving me out of the way were going to get ahead of me. I mean, who do you people think you are? Who do you think you're messing with? So I had to stand in the crowded hallway only for about 5 minutes, listening to a guy who snores instead of breathing talk about his chronic ailments once again, as I've done for the last 6 weeks. Yeah, there's this guy who comes in. He's so big that he snores instead of breathing. It's like, as he's standing there, you just hear... And when he talks, he's like... Hey, how you doing, guys? Hate waiting in this line, guys. And so, I mean, this dude could be the voice of a pig character in a cartoon, for crying out loud. So anyway, this overweight dude in a wife beater, one day he shows up and he grabs this tiny little chair that a kindergartner would sit on. And he drags it into the hallway with us so that he doesn't have to stand in line. And so, I mean, imagine like one of the biggest guys you've ever seen sitting on the tiniest chair you've ever seen. It would have been the perfect photo, but I just keep my cool and I just want to get on with my day and I don't want any drama from the downtrodden. And so I'm just going to let it go. It was a picture I'm going to keep in my head and I'm not going to get to post it on social media and share it with you guys. It's just the way it is. But this guy, he stands there. And he complains about his back, complains about his knees and his headaches. This is the only thing he talks about is his chronic illnesses, his chronic this and his chronic that. His kidneys are this and his heart and his liver. And you know what I'm thinking when he's doing this? I'm thinking, dude, the reason that you have so many ailments is because you drank too much ale. There's your answer right there. Instead of getting drunk and watching sports ball all day, go drink some water and do some sports ball. I mean, dude, go for a walk. When's the last time you did that? But I was in and out of this place in 20 minutes from the time I arrived to the time I got out the door, and 15 of those minutes were waiting for them to open the door to the room. and then it was another 5 minutes or so to get my stuff done and get out of there. So, the content for this channel, part of the reason why I'm stacking up content faster than I can share it with you guys is your fault. Once again, it's your fault. You guys left me some comments yesterday about my stories in the office. So, as a result of the comments that you guys left yesterday, once again, kids, it's story time. Gather round. It's going to be much better than the drag queen show at the local library. And I got to tell you, I've been at the local library here in Jamestown every single day almost from open to close for several weeks now. And I've not seen one single drag queen coming in to read books to little kids. So maybe Jamestown, maybe I'm softening up about Jamestown a little bit. A user who shows up on the regular, his name is TefLife 2024, regards the current work culture. I used to like when you had cubicles or your own office to work in. Recently on the news, I saw that they're designing offices now into open collaborative spaces where you can fit more people on the floor space and everyone is sitting on stools with their laptop. Ugh, I'm quite a private person and that would drive me insane. And then another user, JackMac1. I work at a company where they have implemented the 1950s style open office. Rows of desks, no privacy, very loud and distracting. It's awful. The company makes an obscene amount of money, but is as cheap as possible, packing in as many people into the buildings as they can. Some areas are so overcrowded that people cannot go into the office on some days. For a period of time, there were lines going out the restroom door into the hallway to take a dump because there were way too many people packed into a building designed for half the population. I once had to park a quarter mile from the building because the parking lot was full and I didn't get there before 9 a.m. It's very noisy, a constant chatter, laughing, people talking loudly because they're wearing headphones on Teams and don't realize how loud they sound. Yeah, right there. I could do a whole show about open offices. We all used to, and I'm a little bit older. And my generation, we all used to hate the cubicles. Remember the movie Office Space? I don't know how many of you have seen that, but it's a brilliant movie. Mike Judge, his two movies, Office Space and Idiocracy, are a must-see. Idiocracy is more of a documentary about what's happening in our country right now, but Office Space was a good movie about what it was like to work in a cubicle farm back in the day. The cubicle maze at these companies, it was awful. I worked in a place exactly like the movie Office Space in every possible detail you can imagine. It made me sick to watch that movie because I thought they were filming it at the place I worked. I mean, we even had the stapler guy. You remember him? I was told there would be a piece of cake. Remember that guy? We had him. He worked there. He worked at the place I worked. But when I came back to work after a 6-year stint of freelancing for a living and working from home, man, things had changed. Now everywhere I go, it's this open office concept. And I'm talking an open office with ping pong tables and foosball tables and even air hockey tables and hearing 25 conversations going on at once. And it's, oh my God, it's so ridiculous in these places. So back in the 70s, my high school, or when I went to high school, all of us kids, we noticed that the school was this weird maze of configurable walls. And these walls could be dismantled and reconfigured. And they would do this year after year. We would come back to high school and things would be, it would be like the maze for the rat to go get the cheese had changed. And they rearranged all the walls. And so they had these reconfigurable walls. They were almost like floor-to-ceiling cubicle walls. It was weird. But a bunch of teachers, along with my mother, told me that the reason it's like that in that school is because in the early 70s, they tried this open school concept where they thought that if there were no walls, that the kids would hear and absorb information from all the different classes going on at the same time, and the kids would become smarter because they'd be hearing 10 different classrooms at once. But all they did was create a bunch of idiots who were confused because they couldn't pay attention in class. Why? Well, duh, because there's 12 simultaneous classes going on, and they could hear every single one of them at once. So this was a spectacular failure in American education. So what did all the corporations do? They said, let's try this open office thing. And what did they do? They ruined the workplace. There was this one place I worked, the worst example of all of them. It was this hipster tech company. And like I said, I'd have to go into the office and listen all day to 25 simultaneous conversations going on all at once. They had a ping pong table. They had foosball. They had an air hockey table. People were playing air hockey all day long. Clang, 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 clang. I mean, watching the employees zoom by on those stupid electric scooters that everyone's riding around on now, but they're riding around the office on them all day. And don't forget about the open bar and the bar stools and the 7 different craft beers on tap, all of this is there to appease these hipster kids writing code for the company. It got so bad that I went out and bought myself a $400 pair of Bose noise-canceling headphones, and I wrote it off as a business expense because it was a requirement for me to get through a day at my job. They decorated the whole place with beanbag chairs and romper room furniture because I was working with a bunch of little kids. You know, these Generation Zs and the millennials, they're ridiculous to work with. I took a photo of the office once and I posted it on social media, stacked on top of a photo of a 1920s sewing machine factory sweatshop in the garment district of New York City. And it was the same photo. They looked exactly the same, except for my photo was in color and the sewing machine sweatshop was in black and white. This place, it was so cramped. We all had 2 mechanical arms coming off of our desks to hold our external monitors, and all of us used 2 external monitors along with our center laptop screen for a total of 3 screens in front of us. These desks were permanently anchored to the floor, and they were so close together that our screens overlapped each other, and we would have to be really cool with our neighbors so that we could even have our screens set up right. And then the neighbor would constantly bump into your screen all day and distracting you like that while you're trying to work. I mean, we were shoulder to shoulder in this place. It was awful. And then on top of that, my desk was right next to the floor-to-ceiling glass windows. And I mean floor-to-ceiling glass windows. And it was in this building called PPG Tower in Pittsburgh. And it's the famous castle building that you always see. It was featured in the Inspector Gadget movie where the evil lair was on the top floor of the building. And I think there is an actual evil lair on the top floor, but the one in the movie doesn't match what's actually in the building. But I was on the 20th floor of this building looking straight down at Market Square. Literally, all I'd have to do is turn my head to the side, and I'm looking hundreds of feet below down to the people below. Floor to ceiling glass window with no edging, no molding on the floor to ceiling. And so sometimes I would just look over to the side and whoa, and have this vertigo feeling, thinking I'm going to fall off the edge at times. It just felt like you were going to fall right off the edge of the building sometimes. And so all of this together, there was a CVS store in Market Square right across the street from the building. And they had one of those blood pressure monitors that you shove your arm into. and you hit the button and it takes your blood pressure. And so I started posting photos to social media showing my blood pressure before going to work. I would stop at CVS in the morning on my way to the office, sit in front of the blood pressure thing and take a photo of the results. And then I would go back at 3 in the afternoon and take a photo of my blood pressure at 3 in the afternoon. And the difference was staggering. People who work in the medical community told me if I came into their doctor's office with the blood pressure that I was showing at 3 in the afternoon, they would want to hospitalize me. But in the morning, I was fine. So this is what that company did to me. And I got out of there. I made a concerted effort to get out of that place. And I got out of there, worked in a lot of other open offices, but at least in these other open offices, the crowd was a little more mature, older, and had more respect for each other and the noise levels and all that kind of stuff. Plus, from my very next job after this company, companies were already starting to send people home to work remotely, and that was in 2015. So the open office concept hasn't been as much of a problem for me, mainly because I spent 6 or 7 years working from home and going into these open offices maybe once a week or less. But, why did the companies take a failed concept from the 70s and turn it into today's hip new work culture? It's like that commenter said, because they're cheapskates, that's why. Cubicles are expensive. They can cost a few $1,000s a piece, and they take up a lot of room. In fact, at one company I worked at, a friend of mine worked at right before the dot-com bubble burst, and his company tanked. He showed me a $70,000 cubicle in his office, and this cubicle didn't even have any walls. It was this weird black cube with struts and a frame around the top and no walls. And I have no idea what the hell this thing was for, but he told me that it cost $70,000, and I think it was part of the reason the company burned through $75 million in less than a year and went bankrupt. But, once again, don't worry. The CEO got another venture capital company to fund another dumbass startup that he could run into the ground, because that's what these people do. They run one business after the next into the ground, and they show that they're completely inept at managing a company, and yet these venture capital firms say, well, here's another 50 million, go start another one. So if anybody's a venture capitalist watching this channel and you want to give me $50 million to go run a company into the ground, give me a call. I'm easy to find. You can look me up on LinkedIn. You can go to litgood.com and fill out the contact form. That'll send me a direct message right to my email box. Once again, venture capitalists, if you want to hand me $50 million to run a company into the ground, give me a call. I'm your man. But these companies, most companies, the reason why they're going to the open office is they're cheapskates. Cheapskates. That's why they stopped paying for cubicles, and now they just give you a desk and a chair. But now they want to take away your chair. Why do you think they're making it all hip and cool to have one of these stand-up desks now? They're trying to make it seem cool so that you won't get angry when they take away your chair. When somebody at a company I was working for asked me why I continue to sit in my Herman Miller Aeron chair while everyone else stands all day, I looked up at them. And I had to look up because everybody was standing around me at their stand-up desks while I'm the only one sitting. And I had to say, well, see, I went to college to get an education, and I learned how to do the things that smart people do so that I won't have to be at a job where I have to stand all day. I have a job where I get to sit down because I went to school and I applied myself, and now I get to do big boy stuff, where you think and you write code and you do things like that. If I wanted to stand all day at work, I would just go get a job at Burger King. Granted, now keep in mind, this was several years ago, and right now I can't even get a job at Burger King if I wanted to, but I would take it if I could get that job right now. But anyway, that's all beside the point. my discussion on the topic of the stupid open office concept that is ruining the office workplaces in America right now, I think I'm done talking about that. Well, let me think here. There's one more thing. It kind of branches off of this. There's this big trend now for companies, almost every company that I work for. The trend now is to get rid of walls and have glass panels instead of walls, if they haven't gone fully remote yet, which is a new trend. So even if you have an office, even if you have an office at your job now, you're basically in a floor-to-ceiling glass-walled fishbowl, so that people might not hear you and you might not hear them, but everybody's going to be able to stare at you all day from every direction, 360 degrees around you, and see what's going on in your office. I think that, there were probably one too many Monica Lewinskys coming into work, and companies had to put the kibosh on that and put everybody in a fishbowl. Some of these companies, you walk in the front door and you can look through all the glass walls and see to the other end of the building. But everyone can see you all day, and they can see what's going on in your office now. So, the shenanigans have stopped. It's not just being done to be trendy and cool. Like I said, we all know the reason they're doing it. But one thing that gets on my nerves in my line of work is this whole dry erase marker craze. And as a user experience designer and a creative person at a software company, a big part of my job is using a whiteboard. But for me, because I work remotely, most of my whiteboard is an app called Miro. It's an electronic whiteboard, and it's used to sketch out ideas and that kind of stuff. And I highly prefer that because, for a million reasons, but I have several Miro boards that I'm working on right now for all kinds of projects, and it's just a dumping ground for ideas. It's an electronic whiteboard, and I can paste. It's way better than a whiteboard. Way better than a whiteboard. But every user experience design company that I see on the internet these days, they have the exact same website right now. Just a bunch of douchebag hipsters all gathered around a whiteboard, pointing their fingers at a website wireframe sketch with a bunch of ooh and ah looks on their stock photo faces. But now they're getting even more creative and doing all the drawing on the glass walls of the conference room. And then they're taking Instagram photos of themselves gathered around both sides of the magic marker on the glass going ooh and ah. and the whole website is just covered with these photos, and every single user experience design company in existence has these stupid photos on their website, every single one of them. And because it's like I said, you're working with a bunch of little kids who just want to spend all day writing on the walls. And now companies are using this dry erase board paint to paint all the walls in the office so people can just draw on the walls all day, wherever they want. And then they can erase it later. But the funniest thing about that is that I found, because I've worked in these places, the marker doesn't fully erase from those walls when they use that paint. And it starts to look like a little kid's bedroom whose parents never paid any attention to what the kid does in there, covered in handprints and faded marker drawings, and it looks like trash after a while. There was this one place that I worked where this one hipster douchebag, he went up to a giant 4K television screen that we were presenting on, and he pulled a dry erase marker out of his pocket, and he started drawing on the TV screen. I'm not kidding. He sat there drawing shapes and arrows and drawing website layouts right on the frickin' screen. And then he hoped that the dry erase marker would come off. I'm like I said, I'm working with a bunch of little kids. I can't stand it. I cannot stand working with these little kids. Do you have any idea what my grandparents would have done to me if I went up to their big-ass console TV in the living room while they were watching Wheel of Fortune and started filling in the letters with a marker on the TV screen? I would have gotten the shit kicked out of me. I would have been bleeding from that beating. But this is what America's turning into now. Corporate America. Working with a bunch of little kids who want to draw on the walls all day and play air hockey and foosball and ride around the office on electric scooters. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And this is why I can't stand going to the office, and I take jobs where I can work from home. I worked at this one company. I'm not going to name the name. They had a different open office concept that was even worse. It was a wide open office, same deal, sweatshop mentality. But this place, you could choose your desk when you showed up to work. And maybe on paper that sounds like a good idea, but basically what it results in is you come in every day and you have to set up a desk as if it's the first time you've ever worked at the company, your first day in the office. You have to adjust the monitor and the chair to the right ergonomics, to the right height. Then you've got to set up all your equipment out on the desk. And I mean all of your equipment. There's nothing that you can leave on the desk overnight. And then you have to plug in a monitor. And when you plug in a monitor that's never been plugged into your MacBook before, you have to configure that monitor and move it. And there's about 5 minutes worth of work to set up a screen that's never been plugged into your Mac before. Now, if you plug the same monitor into your Mac day after day after day, your Mac will remember the settings from the previous day or from, however long it's been. So at home, back when I had a home, I had a docking station for my Mac. I would just plug a USB cord into the side of my Mac, and both of my side monitors and all of my peripherals would automatically just, boom, snap into place. Everything was configured exactly how I wanted it, and it was a 5-second process. But at this place, it was about 15-20 minutes to set up your workspace. So I couldn't stand it. I couldn't do this anymore. So I got permission for my team to set up our own area off to the side. We dragged a bunch of whiteboards on wheels to create some walls and section off our area from the rest of this nonsense. We took monitors that we wanted. We claimed an entire area for my team. And each person on my team now has their own desk. And you wouldn't have to go through all this stuff. You have your own desk, your own chair, everything's set up the way you want it. So when you come into the office, you just plug and play. And that was for my team. And I went to the top and I told them that this was ridiculous and that I want a space for my team so we don't have to go through this nonsense every day. So other people who were on the floor, they got mad that I got special treatment and permission to do this for my team. So these people would come over and sabotage our workplace. I'd get to work in the morning and my monitors would be gone, taken from my desk. Sometimes my chair would be missing. Or someone would do even worse and bring a broken chair over and take my chair away. And then it got to the point where I'd still have to spend half an hour to 45 minutes every morning just getting my workspace put together. It was just childish and stupid. Once again, working with a bunch of little kids. Someone would bring another chair over and leave it there, and I'd know the second I sat down because it wasn't adjusted to me. I mean, just one thing after the next out of jealousy at this point. So yeah, this company, they wanted me to waste even more of my time every day by giving me a space where I need to spend 20 minutes every morning adjusting and setting up a space as if I'm a brand new employee and this is my first day at the job. And then on top of that, you have all of that obnoxious noise in the background of working in an open office with 150 other people having simultaneous conversations and eating their food and riding around on scooters. And well, this place didn't have air hockey, so I guess that was an improvement. But I mean, this is what corporate America is turning into, and you wonder why everything is just a complete shit show. Well, there you go. That's why. Because it's just a bunch of little kids going to preschool every day, playing with toys all day long and drawing on the walls, and nobody's getting any work done anymore. At that place I was just talking about, sometimes you would go to lunch. I would go to lunch and I would come back and someone stole my monitors. And now I have to go find monitors so I can work for the rest of the day, and I'm losing another hour out of my day just because some immature little jackass decided to take stuff off my desk. And I would have to take my laptop with me for lunch or put it in one of these lockers that they had for us, because I was afraid that if I left it out, I'm afraid at a company I work for that somebody's going to steal my work laptop that I'm leaving on my work desk in the company's office. I would have to lock my laptop so that it wouldn't get stolen by some idiotic, childish employee. I mean, this is what it's come to, people. This is where you work now when you go to these tech companies, and it's only going to get worse. I can't even imagine how it's going to get worse, but I haven't been in one of these places in a few years, and I'm afraid that if I go back, it's going to be a lot worse. That job in particular, the one where they kept taking the monitors and stuff off my desk, I quit that job in 3 months. 3 months is all I could last. Once again, Tef Life 2024, he says, the next video would be interesting to hear your opinion on today's worldwide IT outage. Well, in my opinion, I use a MacBook Pro and do all of my work on a Mac, so I'm good. I don't have those problems. So the rest of you, I don't know what you're going through. I have a few IT friends that said they were having a bad day yesterday, and I was still getting stuff done. I was dealing with YouTube bugs, but that's about it. But on a side note, CrowdStrike, the company that caused the global outage yesterday, they're an integral part of our election system, just so you know. So if any of you are wondering how this creepy old dementia-riddled hair-sniffing pedophile is going to cheat on the election this fall, here you go. CrowdStrike, on their website, they have a notice that says Cybersecurity and Election Security Resource Center. Cybersecurity is a fundamental pillar of election security. The elections community and their partners in government, NGOs, and the private sector must remain vigilant in the face of potential threats. Elections infrastructure and systems, enterprises that administer elections, campaigns, and the channels through which elections information and results are communicated can all be targeted. Awareness is the first step. Learn how CrowdStrike can help. So there you go. You just learned how CrowdStrike can help cheat on the election this fall, and you're aware of it. So, like I said, once again, I use a MacBook Pro to do my work, and I'm not ever voting again. So as far as I'm aware, the IT outage yesterday, it didn't affect me at all. So moving on. One more thing to talk about, I think, before I run out of time here and this video gets too long. On the job front, the other day, a few days ago, and a company in Pittsburgh reached out to me to schedule a first round interview for a software design job that would come with a salary of over $200,000 per year. So, that's a big salary for the Pittsburgh region. And to be honest, I don't even know if I'm going to make it past the first round of interviews for this. But to even get considered for a job like that is an accomplishment in itself. I mean, think about what it takes just to be able to make it to the audition. So I can certainly say, even though I can't get a job at Burger King right now, I can land job interviews for $200,000 jobs. And so imagine that. I'm on a wild ride right now. Just imagine being forced to live. Just imagine, remember when I was talking about having to go back to Pittsburgh and being forced to live in a halfway house? I don't have a place to live in Pittsburgh, so what if I get this job and I have to commute to this job every day and I have to live in Pittsburgh in order to take this job? Just imagine being forced to live in a halfway house and having to get a permission slip from the federal probation officer or whoever works at the halfway house so I can get a day pass so that I have permission to take a bus to my $200,000 a year job every day. And imagine being told that I'm not allowed to bring my laptop to and from the halfway house, or I have to sit there explaining that I need this laptop for my job. What the hell, man? What the hell? I mean, at least there would be no problem getting to and from the office from downtown Pittsburgh, where the halfway house is located, because the buses run every 5 to 10 minutes to the location of this company. But think about it. I can't even, like I said, I can't even get a job at Burger King or Target or McDonald's right now, but companies are reaching out to me for 6-figure jobs. No, we can't hire you. Target calls up and says, no, we can't give you that job after all. But, you know, go down the road. There's a $200,000 a year job waiting for you. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to think right now. But right now, I don't even have $200 to my name, let alone 200 large. Well, it looks like I don't have, well, anyway, let's see. I got to check the time now, because I'm probably, oh my goodness, it's almost an hour. So yeah, I wanted to talk about church last weekend. Once again, I keep saying that every single day. But if I don't hit stop on this video, the video is going to get so ridiculously big, I won't be able to put it on TikTok. And I think the algorithm's going to give me some hate today because of the video length being so long. A lot of people aren't going to make it to the end. But for those of you who do, I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Smash that like button, jam on it like you're playing Mortal Kombat at the arcade, and hit that subscribe button. I need to get enough subscribers so that if I lose a few, that counter doesn't go back to saying $9.99. Can you imagine sitting in front of your computer screen when you see that counter hit $9.99 and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that thing to hit 1,000, and then you're reaching out to a few friends who maybe haven't subscribed yet, saying, hey, if you subscribe right now, you can be lucky number 1,000. But it only took about half an hour after I saw the thing hit $9.99 to cross over that magic line, and now everything's in place. The advertising can start. So if you're seeing ads at the beginning of these videos and you don't like it, well, you only have yourselves to blame for making it so popular. Once again, I hope you all have a good day. I hope you find a better job than working in one of these Chuck E. Cheese offices with all the video games and the electric scooters and all that stuff. And hopefully we'll talk again tomorrow, and maybe we'll get to talk about church. Peace out.